Hi, my name is Mark Ellis from Stick and Rudder Studios, and today I want to take you through the changes for KeyPad 1.5.1 Beta 15. We've definitely adjusted stuff since Beta 14, so this will be a good opportunity to kind of walk you through what those changes are. So the big change from Beta 14 is the way we do the bindings of the Stream Deck actions to your key definition over in the XKeyPad configuration. In the past, the bindings were done in the configuration editor. It is now done entirely over in the Stream Deck property inspector. And we'll see this in a minute in the video. But once you install the new XKeyPad plugin, when you bring up the property inspector on a particular action instance, you're going to see a new text field called the function property. And what this function property is basically this is where you're going to put in the name of the equivalent function name over on the key definition in the XKeyPad configuration. And this is how the match is made between that instance of the key on the Stream Deck and what you actually want done when you press that key, or what it should look like when there's a change in the keys look and feel. And these function names, they have to match between what you put in that function text field on the property editor and what you name the function over in your XKeyPad configuration file. And just, function names, they're basically the same as the key name. I didn't change the code under the covers. It's just I changed the name from key name to function name because I felt it made a little bit more sense, and it worked better between encoders and keys and things like that. So the advantages of doing it like this, first off, I actually think it's a little easier to do the bindings. It's a little less clunky than using that drop-down list we had on the bindings tab. But the big advantage is once you've bound an action to a particular key definition, then you can drag and drop that key any place you want. You can move it to a new location, you can copy it and paste it, and the function name assignment moves with that when you move it around. So you don't lose your bindings when you rearrange things on your Stream Deck device. The other advantage is that when you export that Stream Deck profile or back it up, that function name goes with the profile. So what that's going to allow you to do is potentially share your Stream Deck profiles along with your XKeyPad configuration JSON file, so that when other users install that, they should be able to get the same layout that you've done. Obviously, they can change it if they don't like it, but that's one advantage of getting it. And I also think you probably can use this profile export as a way of starting you off with kind of a new profile for a new aircraft, where the layouts are already there, and then you could just change what you don't like. Some other changes that we've done in Beta 14, since we're now doing all the binding over on the Stream Deck UI, there's no longer any need for XKeyPad to have an understanding of what the devices are. Whether you have a Stream Deck XL or a Mini or a Stream Deck Plus, it's a little irrelevant to the configuration editor. So I've removed all of that code where you used to have to add a device and then associate it with a hardware device. All that's been removed. The binding tab has been removed because since you're going to do the binding over on the Stream Deck UI. I've also added some advanced filtering on the definitions tab, and if you recall, the definitions tab is where you can see all of your key definitions in a sort of a linear list. And with this filtering, you can enter in a filter that will be a case-insensitive search across the key's function name and anything in the key's comments. This is useful when you're trying to get a list of just a class of keys, like all the keys associated with lights, all the keys associated with autopilot functions, radios, etc. This will help you a little bit when you're trying to lay out your Stream Deck device, where maybe what you want to do is lay out all of the radio functions or all of the autopilot functions. This helps you reduce that list down in the configuration to just the ones you want to see, so you're not hunting and pecking trying to find the function name that you need to copy. You do need to be a little thoughtful on, particularly on the way you do your comments and your keys. You want to make sure that you put keywords in the comments that are going to group things together in the ways you might want to be able to see them. So that's probably just a good practice that you're going to want to be able to see, and we'll see all this in a minute. So those are the major changes that we've done. Let's go in and see what we need to do here to get this to all work. Okay, so the first thing we're going to need to do is you have to install the new Beta 15 Stream Deck plugin. So if you see down here, if I come down here and I right click on this, you'll see that I've got 1.5.1.14 installed on my Stream Deck software. I need to uninstall this plugin. So you're just going to click on uninstall and it goes away. Now what we need to do is install the new one. So we'll just bring up Windows Explorer here. And if you're on OS X, you would use Finder. You're going to go to the X KeyPad folder under X Plane. Go to the SD-plugin folder. Go to your operating system. I'm on Windows right now. And here's the new plugin. So all we have to do is double click that, or you can do a right click and do an open with the Stream Deck app. Go ahead and install it. And if installed properly, when you come down here and you right click on it, it should say that you're on 1.5.1.15, which is beta 15. Now let's take a look at what's going to happen, how this is going to look differently. If you drag and drop this into a key position, you're going to now notice that this is what's called the property inspector down here. You're going to notice that there's a new field here called the function name. And this is where you're either going to type in, or what I prefer to do is copy and paste in the equivalent function name on your X KeyPad configuration definition. So let's take a look at how we do that. Let's move this over here. Let's bring X Plane over and unpause it. All right, what we're going to do first is I'm going to bring up the Stream Deck configuration editor. I'm going to go ahead and import that generic one. And by the way, somebody asked if I could show you how to create new keys from scratch, and I will do that towards the end of this video. So we're just going to come over here. We're going to do an append. Go to resources, plugins, X KeyPad, samples, Stream Deck, and here's our kind of generic configuration. And what I did in this generic configuration is I just piled a whole bunch of definitions in there that, for the most part, should work across all aircraft. I mean, obviously things like the landing lights are sometimes different between different planes, but these are things where, you're not going to get errors because it's missing data refs or commands if you load this up on any aircraft. It may not work on every craft, but it should be pretty close. So we'll go ahead and append that in. And now, if we come over here to our key definition list, you're going to see all of the key definitions. And a couple of things I did is I laid this out differently. I went to a tab format for the keys and encoders. The other thing you're going to see here is that there's a new button. If the key's defined with a real function name, you'll have a copy function name, which will copy that function name to the clipboard. And that's going to make it really easy to paste it over into the Stream Deck UI. If you have comments, you get a little question mark here. If you hover over it, this is going to show you the comments, for that particular key. Like if I come down here to the transponder code, this is where you can get a sort of a preview of what the comment is. Okay, so let's say we want to start laying this guy out. Well, we know that, let me just do this. I'm going to add another page here so that we get this default little guy here. I'll delete him. And let's start laying out the keypad functions, okay? So we know that this 0 key here, if I just do a copy of the name, and let's drag this guy up here, put a 0 right there. And all I have to do is highlight that, do a paste and a return, and you'll see that it shows up. Now, if you remember correctly with these, I needed these to be a certain font size. So as an example, I can come in here and I can make these all really big. And I'm just going to copy it, paste. Notice that what happens is it keeps the same It keeps the same function name down here when I did this copy and paste. Same is true if I dragged and dropped it, like if I put it up there. So you kind of see what the advantages of it being like this. Let's just paste these all in here. I think we had a couple up here as the way I did my normal layout. Now all I need to do is go through and get the function names right. So I know this one here is supposed to be the dot, right? Copy function name. And this is going to be the one. Actually, now that since I was pretty consistent with the way I name these, I can actually come up here and just do this. That's one. That's two. Now watch, if I do something really odd here, like make this a D, you'll notice it didn't do anything because, you know, what's happening here is that's not actually not a real name, right? That it doesn't find a match for it. So four. And I could obviously be doing copying and pasting here, but since I was consistent with the way I named the functions, I can just, you know, get away with doing it like this. Right? And I think this one up here, I think I made this the clear key, so I'm just going to copy the function name. And I know this one needs to be a little bit smaller. Drop it down a bit here. This one here is going to be the minus key, copy the function name. And again, this one needs to be a little smaller too. All right, so if this is working, I should be able to type in a number on my Stream Deck, 121.6, and sure enough, it's showing up in here. And so now I've got these done. Now let me just do another one here. Say, for instance, I want to put the radios up here. Let's again go back and take a look at this filter. If I put in radio here, this is going to drop it down and show me all of the radio functions. The reason it does this is because in here, in the comments, I've got the word radio in all of these, right? So now if I do want to do the radios, let's just come up here. Let's drag and drop a key. I'm pretty sure with these I want them to be 11. And centered. Copy function name. And now again, because I was sort of consistent with the names, I can even be a little, I can cheat a little bit here. Copy, paste, paste, paste. This is COM2. Have one. Have two, right? So now we've got those all in there, and just to make sure that it works, let's type in a frequency here. Let's go 118. Oh, look, I messed up here. This is supposed to be an 8. There we go. That looks better. So let's try that again. We'll do 118.65, and let's put that into COM1. Yep, and it works, and if I push it, it flips it.
Lebanon Muni Information Delta. 1800 Zulu.
That was a little loud. Okay, so I think you get the gist of how it works. Now, for you guys, I'm pretty sure what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to go through and redo all these bindings because you're going to lose them all with this new version. But once you've done this, you can see the advantages. If I don't like these here, I can just drag and drop them, right? And put all the radios down here. Move them around any way you want, and you know it should consistently keep finding that function name. So a couple key points here. You need to make sure that this here that you put in this function name, it's got to match exactly, and it's case sensitive, at least for the moment. And leading and trailing spaces are going to matter too. That's got to match exactly to the function name, that's up here. So that's the only thing you really need to kind of keep your wits about you when you're doing this. And I would suggest that you might want to come up with a function name naming convention. I'm thinking a little bit when we start trying to share these things, I don't know whether it makes sense for maybe for you to put maybe a three-letter initial prefix in front of your function names. I'm just thinking about when we start, other people trying to append, your definitions, okay, to their current definitions. If the function names match, it's going to end up replacing, theirs with yours. So that just might need a little bit of experimenting to see what it's like to share these things, or blend configurations using the append function, to basically build up a configuration from a set of generic definitions. So that will require some experimenting, and then once we get that figured out, we can, develop some best practices. Okay, so somebody wanted me to show you how to create a key definition from scratch. So why don't we go ahead and do this? I'm going to come in here and I'm going to just clear this out so it's all cleared. And let's say as an example, maybe I want to do something we'll just do something simple like the taxi lights, okay? So I come over here to key definitions, and a real quick way to find, an empty one is just come in here and put undefined, get rid of the filter. And these are all the undefined keys. So if you want to go to the next available slot that's undefined, you can go here. First thing I'm going to suggest you do is put a function name in. So we'll call this taxi light. Okay. Toggles the taxi light. Okay. Now I'm going to want this so that, when the taxi light's on or off, I want, different images, and potentially different text based upon those different states. So the first thing you're going to want to do is find a data ref that can drive that logic. So we'll come in here, we'll go to data refs. I'm going to search for taxi. And here it is right here. Taxi lights on and off. And I think if I simply come in here and give me 1 minute. I'm going to pop this out. Go to the lights. So I think as we change the taxi lights, which I'm not sure which one they are here, it's this one. You'll notice that data ref goes from a 1 to a 0. If I put this back on again, that's back to a 1 again. So I'm going to go ahead and do a file save, put this back in there. There we go. So data ref taxi lights, this one's good. So I'm going to copy that and I'm going to paste that in, to my logic data ref, which is going to drive my kind of decision making. So next thing we need to do is go add a command. So we're going to add a conditional command. I'm going to make this so that it's always true, meaning that regardless of what the state of anything is, like the logic data ref, because I'm going to use the toggle command on the taxi lights. Basically, every time I press it just toggles it from on to off and on to off. Sometimes you're going to find in some configurations you don't have a toggle command. You're going to have either an on or an off. And this is where having two conditional commands, one command, if the data ref is a 0, then I'm going to want to do an on command, and if it's a 1, I'm going to want to do an off command. And in my case, I know that there's a toggle command for the taxi lights. So we'll do an add command. We're going to search for taxi lights, and here it is, and we can try it. You'll notice that as I try it, this logic data ref changes from a 1 to a 0, right? Indicating the taxi lights are going on and off. So we'll copy that, and we'll paste it. Now we've got, whenever we press the key, that's going to toggle the taxi lights on and off. So the next thing we want to do is pick, what do we want for lines? So we're going to add a key label. In my case, I don't want the text to change. I'm just going to have it say, taxi light. Maybe something like this. Okay. And now in the background image, I'm going to add 2 background images. One for when it's off, which would be when the data ref's 0, and I'm going to use this one here for that, right? And then when it's a 1, I'll use this one, okay? So that that text will show up as taxi light up here, and as we toggle the taxi lights on and off, it's going to go back and forth between those two things, okay? So now I've got this in here, taxi light. I could copy it right here. I could come over here and highlight this and do a Control C to copy it. I can go to the definition list here, go to define keys. You see I've got my taxi lights. I'm going to copy that function. You know what I'll do is I think I'll just put it up here, right? We'll drag it there. And there it is. And I think with this one, I'm going to want that to be oriented to the top, and I think I can make it a little bit bigger. That looks good. And if this works, as I press that key on my Stream Deck device, right? And if I wanted to, I could have conditional text. It says taxi, and it could, rather than saying light, it could say on or off. I mean, you get sort of the gist of how this works. Okay? Now, for those of you that are new to this concept of creating these key definitions, there's extensive tutorials on the virtual devices on how to do this. It's very similar. The only difference I would say is that you know, when you get to the image backgrounds, you know, you on the virtual devices you could do things like control background colors and flashing colors and all this other stuff. The Stream Deck doesn't have that level of sophistication. You can only do images. So there's missing things in here that you've got available on the virtual device that you don't have in the Stream Deck. Same with the lines. On the virtual devices, you can control the font color, the font size, and you can actually do that at each line and even, you know, within line segments. So it's a lot more sophisticated in the virtual device because we have total control over the rendering on the virtual device. Here it's a little simpler. You know, you could go to a complex line editor where you could add different lines and put different data in them, like we did on the ComKey, but it's not quite as robust as what you can do on the virtual device. But I think what you're going to find is the extensive tutorials on how to do that on the virtual device will pretty much match, you know, how you do it on the Stream Deck. So that's you know, kind of an update on how things look in Beta 15. We'll give this a try. Give me your feedback on this, but I think this is the way we're going to go with the bindings going forward. And while you guys are playing with all this, I'm going to get the encoders working on the Stream Deck Plus. Okay? Thank you very much for watching, and please offer any comments in the explain.org forum.